Travis Wingetsell. Got another John Dehlin for you. Apparently he's like scared to death. He's like freaking out. Gone into shock. It's very evident he's gone into shock. And then he went and had his interview with, hold on a second, Shannon Caldwell Montez. Yep. So, yeah, the Secret Mormon Meetings of 1922 is the podcast that he did yesterday, or uploaded yesterday. It's 4 hours long. He did videos with her about B.H. Roberts, and now these are the secret meetings of B.H. Roberts as he's talking to Mormon intellectuals. Well, gee, Travis, that should have been your first clue that they were wrong and that the church is true, because intellectualism is a threat to the church. How dare you gain intelligence? Yeah, screw the Book of Mormon. Light and truth, who needs it? Dwell in the dark. Yeah, Morlock and the Eloi. If you don't know who they are, shame on you. And so, apparently B.H. Roberts is concerned that the Book of Mormon is not an actual history of the American Indians. And so he has these secret meetings to discuss the Book of Mormon, going over what he has found. And these other intellectual Mormons, likewise, are confounded. We had no idea. Oh no, the church isn't true. What do we do? You breathe. You say, Woosa, Woosa. Oh, papi. That means daddy, right? If you don't know where that comes, it's because you're Mormon and you're not allowed to watch R-rated movies. Bad boys. Shame on you. And so, yeah, John Dehlin is like freaking out. He did a video right before this interview. They've known all along. And he's putting out a call. We gotta stop the church. Everybody stop the church. Speak about it. Spread the word. They're evil. What do you think I've been doing this whole time? So yeah, I commented on that video of his and said, John, it's worse than you think. You think you're scared now. You're not scared enough. And so I gave him a couple of homework assignments to look up Heber C. Kimball under Masonry, and then to reference that to Joseph Smith Sr., where it also shows that he was at the Canandaigua Lodge in New York, and pointed out in my comment that Joseph Smith Sr. had been the Master Mason since 1818. And so, yeah, if he does his research, he will understand why. And I've done those videos. I've referred to that historical fact. And I keep asking, is this what the Kimball family released? Or is this what the Kimball family wanted to be released? Because that's the source for that whole section under Masonry for Heber C. Kimball. And once you put the pieces together, then you go, oh crap. So, for those of you who are ex-Mormon, who are freaking out because you've seen John Dehlin's interview, Secret Mormon Meetings of 1922, or you've heard it in before, that the Book of Mormon's plagiarized, and the church has been lying, and blah, 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 and now you're finding out the church knew all along. Well, they didn't know all along. they weren't involved with the Book of Mormon. And that was the whole point. There were only a very limited number of people who knew about the Book of Mormon. Lucy Mack came out with her autobiography, her journals, and when it came time to talk about when Joseph Smith supposedly had his first vision and went and told his mom, "I have learned for myself that Presbyterianism is not true, Mother." Go back and read that section. What does Lucy Mack do? She says, "Refer to my son's account." Did you catch that? She doesn't do any kind of external confirmation about that event. She doesn't do any external exposing of it as a fraud. She just says, "Refer to my son's account." And then it's quoted. There were a very limited number of people who knew, and Brigham Young was not one of them. He didn't get brought in until 1833. However, when you go over Heber C. Kimball on Wikipedia under Masonry, knowing that Joseph Smith Sr. is the Master Mason of Canandaigua, New York, but Heber C. Kimball never mentions his name. And then he's making some claims. He claims that he's a Master Mason, and yet still went to a York Rites Lodge where Victor Flats was in Scottish Rites territory, to request and got approved by the Master Mason to be a 7th rank in the York Rites rather than over in the Scottish Rites degrees. And if you're wondering, well, why did he say that he applied for and was granted the 7th rank, the Royal Ark, but not mention Joseph Smith at all? Why not say, "Oh yeah, Joseph Smith was there, that's how I knew him, that's why I joined"? No, none of that. None of that. His joining the church is separate from his Masonry account. He does not connect the two together. He lies and deceives us. He says, "Oh, yeah, on the night when Joseph Smith got the Book of Mormon plates, I saw a sign in the heavens." Yeah, I call BS. But again, he knows, because the Smiths saw a sign in the heavens, a real sign of planets in conjunction in a certain constellation. It was wrong, but it was a foreshadowing of the future sign of the Son of Man, which may have been why they did it that night, and why they did it every year, as they claim, for those 4 years, during that same time period. Because that's when they knew the sign of the Son of Man would occur. And then there's this Holiness to the Lord star chart. Nobody understands that it's a star chart. But yeah, it's also understood in the York Rites Freemasonry, as I confirmed today with the beehive. Beehive and Holiness to the Lord are York Rites. One eagle, his Illuminati with the inverted pentagram, 2 eagles with the inverted pentagram. Well, the 33 or 32 is Scottish rites, but yeah, Brigham Young made sure to let us know that as a Scottish rites, he's an Illuminati. And Albert Pike confirms that with his letter to Giuseppe Mazzini. And so, yes, there's corroborating evidence. And Scott, he wrote volumes of books, and in one of those volumes he said that the Illuminati was a threat to America. Sir Walter Scott, Sir William Scott, I can't, name escapes me at the moment, but yeah. So the people who were in on the Book of Mormon: Joseph Smith Sr., Joseph Smith Jr., but only in the capacity of distract Martin Harris, get him out of here so that we can do this. Well, he insists on being involved, Dad. All right, fine. Take him out to Harmony with you, north of Pittsburgh. No, not Susquehanna River. Notice how he puts Harmony, Susquehanna River? Yeah, no. His whole history is coded as well. The whole thing coded, guys, because of the threat to America. They were saving William Morgan's life. So they now took on the responsibility to continue the work of publishing the book, books technically, and they did it into one book called the Book of Mormon. And so Junior was not really a part of any of the content, but they sure hyped him up, didn't they? Made him the leader of the church. But reread section 3 of the Doctrine and Covenants, the loss of the 116 pages, and I'll give you a hint: it's not the Lord who's pissed. Unless you're talking about the Lord of the Manor. And so Hiram also knew about it. It's unclear if Emma knew. It's unclear if any of the other siblings knew. Because Samuel and William don't seem to fully catch on as time goes on during the church time. It's just Hiram and Joseph who seem to be aware of it. They would have known something was going on, just not knowing what was going on. So similar with Lucy Mack, Emma, and other wives. The Whitmers, no clue. They were brought in as witnesses, though. Cowdrey's, William Cowdrey, no mention of him ever I can find for church history. You know, he's given an assignment, I guess. Let me see if I recall that correctly. But Oliver Cowdery definitely was involved because he took over after Martin Harris destroyed the 116 pages. William Cowdery. Just one place. No. Nope. It's William W. Phelps. W. Phelps. No William Cowdery. Very interesting. So, yeah, they purposely kept William Cowdery out of it. And he doesn't even seem to have a Wikipedia page. There's the Joseph Smith Papers biography. That doesn't do much help for us. And then there's Oliver Cowdery, who has him listed as a father. But yeah, William is not given a rendering or a link, hyperlink. So they're keeping William a secret, which is very interesting, because William and Joseph Smith Sr. were involved with the New Israelites in Vermont right around the turn of the 19th century. And the wood scrape incident they would have known about. And fun times. And so, yeah, Justice Winchell became a member. I'm guessing he taught how to forge or counterfeit. And today's understanding of that, people think of fraud and stuff like that. No, it's smith forging, metalwork, replicating metals and stuff like that, metal objects. And so, yes, you need to do that to make copper plates for the print press, not the Book of Mormon. There were no original Book of Mormon plates. They were the printer's plates to be sent to the printer whenever they can find one, because they couldn't go to the Batavian press because that would show their hand and expose who they are. And so, yeah, the William Morgan anti-Mason movement, that tells you exactly why they were needing to go underground and into hiding and create a story about the coming forth of the Book of Mormon. And so John Dehlin doesn't need to be too scared about Joseph Smith, but yeah, he has every reason to fear Brigham and Heber, because they are the terrorist organization. And you guys all thought it was the Bush father and son, the 1,000 Points of Light and New World Order. That was the government version. There's a church version also, guys. You were not informed by those conspiratorialists, which is not to be confused with an actual conspiracy theory. They were purposely misleading the public. Now we have QAnon purposely misleading the public, as it used to be Anonymous, who was purposely misleading the public. That's all part of their game, to mislead, to tell you truth. Yes, this deep state are satanic pedophiles. That is correct. That is true. But the identity of them is not Tom Hanks. Leave Tom Hanks alone. It's the church. Remember the Boy Scouts? Remember all the lawsuits? The hundreds of lawsuits from boys, from Boy Scouts who were raped as boys. What's the definition of pedophilia again? Exactly. Then, satanic? What's that star on the Eagle Gate? The Salt Lake Temple? The Logan Temple? The Nauvoo Temple? Why is it pointing down? Exactly. It's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who QAnon is actually talking about. But they're not talking about the church. They're talking about Tom Hanks and other celebrities and Democrats. Well, Democrats are communists, but they're not Nazis. They're not the terrorist threat. Although Democrats may have been infiltrated as well to be the counterbalance to keep people deceived, blah, blah, blah. Because there are a lot of Democrats who could have stood up and had a spine, but chose not to. And the Democrat platform is claiming equality when in actuality it's called segregation. It's equality as long as you're segregated from other groups. And that's what I've been trying to talk about, but I can't really do on my YouTube channel because this is focused with the church now. It was my website where I was going to split the two, one for politics, one for church. Church shut me down. So, yeah, nobody knows the origin. Sidney Rigdon was the one hired without money. He was given promises that if he would do them this favor, though, and they didn't acquit him, Calgon, take me away, that he would be brought into the organization through Parley P. Pratt, the ancestor of Mitt Romney, who I convinced today to not vote for a new Supreme Court justice, and none of you will ever know about it other than having heard my video first and then hearing 2 hours later from the MSNBC News Girl reporter asking him the question and him giving the answer 2 hours after I sent my email. And you can say, well, prove it, Travis. I don't believe you. I've already sent him the earlier letter for the acquittal, reminding him of Mosiah chapter 29. Oops! He only did half and half. Half and half is only good for baking. So, yeah. So, Parley P. Pratt did not know. Sidney Rigdon, to help get him into the organization to get paid as he wanted, was to revise the whole Bible. Alexander Campbell told him no. He only wanted to do the New Testament. So Sidney Rigdon left and did his own thing out in Ohio. And so he wanted that to be done. So what happens when he joins the church in December of 1830? Joseph Smith all of a sudden gets this wonderful revelation from God. We're going to retranslate the Bible. It's revision, but Joseph Smith was still new to the concept of translation then. You got to give him another 5 years when he started to study biblical Hebrew, and then got the Egyptian papyrus that same year in 1835. And then he started to grasp what his father was trying to do. But Hiram was the educated one, Dartmouth. And that's why they dug up graves, was to donate the bodies to the Dartmouth school so that they can get Hiram educated. Simple as that. But back then in those days, it was taboo for doctors to be examining bodies, even though they were deceased, and so people then had to dig up the bodies and then bring them to a secret lab. Benjamin Franklin, they found a secret passage room in his house where he'd been examining dead bodies. So it had to be done in secret back then because of the paranoia and anger of the populace back then. But we would never know about the human body today if people weren't examining dead bodies. That's why they ask you if you want to donate your body to science or donate your organs to others who are in need of organs. So now they make it a choice rather than a superstitious fear of Catholic dogma. So, Sidney Rigdon was the one who mostly wrote the Book of Mormon portion. Joseph Smith Sr. had to rewrite the 116 pages. So that's why it includes the Tree of Life from Jewish mysticism, plus the Egyptian Hebrew and buried treasure plates and Temple of Solomon. That's all York Rites, Freemasonry. Knights Templar are the highest rank in that one. And then there's some honorary ones on a chart that I found today. And so the Smiths are the good guys. They had to do things in secret because they didn't want to be assassinated, and thus nobody would ever know what was going to happen in 2017. And then this year, 2020. And so because they were able to keep it a secret from people like Brigham Young, from Heber C. Kimball, who only knew that they had stopped them in 1826, the Book of Mormon has lived on. The Doctrine and Covenants has lived on. The church, being deceived because they didn't know anything or any better, are now putting up the Joseph Smith Papers because they want to be transparent. However, they're still not replacing our Doctrine and Covenants with the original Doctrine and Covenants. They're still not replacing our Book of Mormon with the original Book of Mormon. Deseret Book came out with a very expensive version of the original 1830, but they're not making it the standard works with footnoting and indexing and all that. And so these remain problems as the church is getting slammed big time. Shannon, she's awesome. She's an ex-Mormon cutie, I'll call her. Married, obviously, family and such, but she kicked butt in exposing this 1922 secret Mormon meetings. And she still doesn't have a full understanding of the big picture. It just supports what John Dehlin had suspected, plus a little more, that they knew. It wasn't just, we have no idea, and so we're just lying about it. No, they knew and they lied about it. And I'm trying to tell you, yeah, they not only knew, they caused it. That's how much worse it is. So, yeah. What a day. So I'm behind. Oh well. Just need to go to sleep now. I'm tired. But yeah, the Neff's Canyon fire. That's what it was. It was awesome. So, put the picture in the other video. So yeah, John Dehlin's freaking out. You guys should be too. But far worse, all of you. You should be freaking out. These guys purposely have Lucifer's symbol, which is called Lucifer. He's their motivation. And they are purposely spreading and extending and prolonging and escalating this coronavirus on purpose. Have you not seen 1984? Oh, right, R-rated movie. Can't watch it, can you? In 1984, is it Orson Welles or George Orwell? George Orwell. That's where Orwellian comes from. Writes the book, 1984, and in the book, he talks about a future that is controlled by authoritarianism. They deceive the people by showing news reports of a constant war with another part of the world that also survived the apocalypse. But everybody has to stay in their civilization, their nation, city, whatever, and they can't leave because of the destruction and the pollutions and the sicknesses that are out there. And so they have news clips about how they've conquered or won a battle at such and such against their enemy people, and talk about how mean and anti-human they are, and all that degrading stuff about them. And it's all just made up. They've purposely imprisoned the survivors to control them, and breeding is controlled and all that stuff. And in your work, you're into forced labor, and loyalty gets you privileges, and you're spied on with secret cameras in your apartment and all that stuff. This is the world he foresaw in his story. And sure enough, yeah, that's exactly what the enemy, the Illuminati, want to do, and have been working on that little by little. China's already implementing it, as China are having their version of it, but they're working very hard to get an American version, and Trump is pushing full throttle before the election, if not during the election, to make it official and transition America into that 1984 type scenario, as many of the things have already happened. Net neutrality. Remember net neutrality? Wasn't it nice? I could type in my name and find me. Not anymore. But now apps are able to access our computer data information and steal or put stuff on there, like 50,000 child porn images all in one shot, and then have a tip, an anonymous tip to a government agency to inform them of the child porn on this certain guy's computer, who's a thorn in the side to a certain governor of Utah who wants to open up the airports, but is not being allowed to because the airport director says, no, there's a virus going on. Yeah. He disappeared. He's gone. No due process for him. That's how evil they are, guys. The church literally is the enemy of mankind. How do I get that across to you so that you pee your pants in fear? And so what they did to me to get away with my first lawsuit, when they were freaking out, they were panicking. They were looking for ways to flee the country even, as alternate plan B. But then they shouldn't have had to have worried, because Waddup stepped in and saved their ass. But now there's this one. And now I'm calling them out for being the terrorists that they are. And the previous case is evidence. So, yeah, you should all be scared. You should all have your pants wet. You should be shocked and in horror, staring at the screen, listening to my voice but not hearing a single thing I'm saying anymore. If you are not that scared, why? Have you been so brainwashed that you can't see it? This is how much of an American hero Joseph Smith Sr. is. He literally risked his life to give us the Book of Mormon. And only a handful. William Cowdery, Oliver Cowdery, Joseph Sr., Joseph Jr., Hiram Smith, Sidney Rigdon. I don't think anybody else. So 6. Not the 5 of the Illuminati, just the 6. And isn't it interesting? The Illuminati have a 5-pointed star that points down. The Jewish star is 6 points. Sure, it's just a coincidence.